Every night at exactly 2:13, his phone would buzz. Same message. No number, no name. Just 3 words. Leave before morning. At first he ignored it, thought it was some kind of glitch, maybe someone messing with him. But then, things started changing. Doors he locked weren't fully closed anymore. Lights he turned off, came back on. And the worst part wasn't inside the house, it was outside. Because every time he stepped out, the neighbors were already watching him. Like they knew something he didn't. Like they were waiting for something to happen. So the question is, what were they waiting for? And why did it start the moment he moved in? Jason Carter moved into the house on a quiet Monday afternoon. No celebration, no big moment. Just a key, a door, and a place of his own. The house sat at the end of a long, narrow street, lined with identical homes, evenly spaced, clean lawns, no clutter. It looked almost too perfect. At first, it felt like exactly what he needed. A reset, new city, new job, no distractions. The house had a strange layout, long hallway, narrow rooms, and a staircase that creaked slightly even under light steps. Nothing alarming, just old. But by evening, he started noticing something small. The silence. Not normal quiet. There were no distant sounds, no dogs barking, no passing cars. Just stillness. And occasionally, movement behind windows. Jason didn't think much of it at first. New person in the neighborhood. Of course, people would look. But these weren't quick glances. People didn't look away when he noticed them. They held eye contact. Too long. That night, Jason locked every door before going to bed. Double-checked everything. Nothing felt wrong. Not yet. Until 2:13 a.m. His phone buzzed once, sharp, sudden. He reached over, half asleep, and checked it. Unknown sender. No number. Just a message. Leave before morning. Jason stared at it for a few seconds, confused, then locked his phone and turned away. It didn't feel serious, just strange. But when he woke up the next morning, the message was gone. The second night, Jason stayed awake. Something about the house felt unsettled. At exactly 2:13, his phone buzzed again. Same message. Leave before morning. This time he sat up immediately, checked the sender. Still nothing. He tried to screenshot it. But the moment he pressed the button, the message vanished, just like the night before. Now it felt controlled. Jason got out of bed and walked through the house slowly. Every step echoed louder than it should have. The hallway felt longer, darker. He reached the living room and stopped. The lamp in the corner was on. He was certain he had turned it off. But something in his chest tightened. Because the switch was flipped up. Not flickering, not malfunctioning, turned on. By someone. The next day, the neighborhood felt different. More people outside, more eyes on him. No one approached, no one spoke. But every time Jason looked up, someone was already looking at him. And this time, they didn't look confused. They looked certain. That night, he didn't go to sleep. He waited, phone in hand, watching the clock tick toward 2:13. When it hit, the message came instantly. But this time, it was different. You're still here. Jason's stomach dropped. That wasn't a warning. That was acknowledgement. Someone wasn't just sending messages. Someone was watching him. And then, a sound. Downstairs. Slow. Deliberate. A step. Jason froze. Another step followed. Not loud, not rushed. Just walking. Like someone moving through the house. Jason moved toward the hallway slowly, his breathing shallow, controlled. The house felt different now, not empty. occupied. He reached the stairs and looked down. The living room light was on again, but this time there was movement, a shadow crossing the wall. Jason rushed down the stairs, heart pounding, and the moment he reached the bottom, the room was empty, but the front door was slightly open. Jason stared at it, frozen, cold air drifting inside, slow, quiet. He walked toward it, step by step, and looked outside. The street wasn't empty anymore. People were there, standing on their porches, on sidewalks, perfectly still, watching him, not hiding, not pretending, just watching, like they had been waiting for this exact moment. Jason stepped back slowly. That's when his phone buzzed again. Not 213, earlier. He looked down. New message. Now you understand. And in that moment, everything made sense. This was never random, never a glitch, never a warning meant to help him. It was pressure, slow, silent, pushing him out. Jason left before sunrise. No hesitation, no second thought. He didn't pack everything, didn't try to explain. He just walked out. And as he stepped onto the street, no one moved. No one spoke. But they watched, every step, until he was gone. Later, when he tried to report what happened, there was nothing to prove. No messages, no footage, no evidence. Just a story that didn't exist on paper. But it didn't need to, because what he experienced wasn't something that leaves records. It leaves impact. That quiet kind of pressure, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't threaten, doesn't need to, because sometimes being told you don't belong doesn't come in words. It comes in silence, in looks, in systems that make sure you understand without ever saying it out loud. And the scariest part? It works. So the real question is, how many people have been pushed out without a single word ever being spoken? This is another true incident. And honestly, if you hear it till the end, it might not even make sense at first, because nothing about what happened that night should have been possible. It didn't start with a threat. It didn't start with a crime. It started with something small, something easy to ignore. A normal evening, a normal street, a person just going about their routine like anyone else would. But within minutes, that normal night turned into something that left people questioning what they actually saw. Not because it was loud, but because it was quiet, controlled, and deliberate. And the worst part is, everyone saw it, but no one said anything. So the real question is, how do you react when something feels wrong, but the entire world around you pretends it isn't happening? Aaron Lewis had lived in the city his whole life. He wasn't someone who stood out. Not loud, not confrontational. He worked a steady job, kept his routine tight, and preferred staying out of situations that didn't involve him. That night was supposed to be no different. He had just finished work a little later than usual. The store was half empty when he walked in. A couple of people near the back aisle, one person at the counter. But as soon as Aaron stepped inside, something shifted. It wasn't immediate, just small things. The person near the counter glanced at him, then quickly looked away. Someone in the aisle stopped moving for a second. Even the cashier's expression changed. Subtle, but noticeable. Aaron felt it instantly. That quiet shift in the air, the kind of feeling you can't explain, but you recognize immediately, like something about you doesn't belong in that space. He tried to ignore it, walked to the fridge, grabbed what he needed, kept his head down. But the longer he stayed inside, the heavier it felt. And then, the door behind him opened again. Two men walked in. Not loud, not aggressive. But the energy changed immediately. Aaron noticed it without looking directly at them. The way the store went even quieter. He moved toward the counter, trying to keep things simple. In and out. No delay. But one of the men stepped slightly to the side, just enough to block his path, just enough to make him hesitate. Aaron adjusted his direction and kept walking. No confrontation, no reaction. But as he passed, he felt it. That stare. Focused. Like he had already been decided on. Aaron reached the counter and placed his items down. The cashier didn't move right away. For a second, it felt like time slowed. Then, slowly. The cashier looked past Aaron. Not at him. Past him. And nodded. That's when Aaron realized this wasn't random. Something had already started. Behind him, one of the men spoke quietly. Just enough to be heard. The kind of tone that doesn't need words. Aaron's chest tightened. He didn't turn around. Didn't react. Just waited. Then suddenly, someone near the back of the store pulled out their phone, not casually, deliberately, pointed in his direction. Aaron felt it instantly. Not attention. Documentation. Like something was about to happen. And people already knew it was coming. The man behind him stepped closer. Too close. Aaron could feel the space closing in. Still, no one said anything clearly. No accusations. No explanation. Just pressure. Silent. Controlled. And then, the first words came. Not from the men. From the cashier. Low. Careful. Directed somewhere else. But meant for him. And in that moment, Aaron understood. This wasn't about something he did. It was about something they believed. The tension snapped all at once. Movement. Sudden. Sharp. One of the men reached forward. Everything sped up after that. People stepped back. Phones stayed up. Recording. Aaron's heart pounded as instinct kicked in. Confusion. Disbelief. Adrenaline all at once. Still no clear accusation. Just action. Controlled chaos. And the worst part, no one stepped in, not one person. Everyone watched, like this was expected, like this was allowed. Aaron tried to process what was happening, but there was no time. In that moment, he wasn't a person anymore. He was a situation. This had been building the moment he walked through the door, and everyone in that store had already decided how it would end. Aaron made it out that night, but not unchanged. Not physically, but something deeper, something harder to explain. Because what stayed with him wasn't just what happened, it was how it happened. No one shouted, no one declared anything, but everything was understood. The looks, the silence, the way people positioned themselves, the way no one questioned it. That quiet agreement. That something about him didn't belong there. Later, when people talked about the incident, the details were vague. Different versions. No clear story. Because no one wants to say what actually happened. And that's what made it worse. Because sometimes, the truth isn't hidden. It's avoided. Ignored. Left unspoken, so no one has to take responsibility for it. Aaron still passes that store sometimes, but he never goes inside. Not because of fear, but because he understands something now. Something most people don't realize until it happens to them. That sometimes, the scariest situations aren't the ones where something goes wrong. They're the ones where everything feels normal, except you. So the real question is, if everyone around you stays silent, does that make what happened any less real? This is the third story. And by now, you may have already realized something, but only if you listen carefully till the end. Because what happened here didn't feel wrong at first. It didn't feel dangerous. It didn't even feel unusual. It felt normal. And that's exactly what made it worse. Because sometimes the most disturbing situations aren't the ones where something obvious happens. They're the ones where everything feels controlled, predictable, almost rehearsed. Like everyone around you already knows what's going to happen next. Except you. And by the time you start questioning it, you realize something terrifying. You were never just part of the situation. You were the reason it was happening. So the real question is, what if the moment you felt something was off was already too late to change anything? Lena Carter had been to that store dozens of times before. Same location, same routine, same late evening stop on her way home from work. It was one of those places you don't think about. Bright lights, clean aisles, people moving quietly through their own lives. That's why she liked it. No interaction, no pressure. Just in, out, and done. That evening started exactly the same way. She parked, grabbed a cart, and walked inside without thinking twice. At first, nothing stood out. A few people near the entrance, a worker restocking shelves, someone pushing a cart slowly through produce. Everything felt ordinary. But about 2 minutes in, something shifted. Not around her, toward her. It started with a look. Someone near the end of the aisle paused for just a second longer than necessary. Not staring directly, but aware. Lena noticed it, then ignored it. That happens. But then it happened again. Different person, different aisle, same pause, same awareness. That's when it stopped feeling random. She kept walking, trying to stay focused on what she came for. But the longer she stayed inside, the more noticeable it became. People weren't just noticing her. They were adjusting because of her. And that's when the feeling started. That quiet, uncomfortable awareness that something wasn't right. Lena slowed down without realizing it. Not enough for anyone else to notice, just enough to observe, because now she needed to confirm it. Was it real, or just in her head? She turned into another aisle and stopped. Out of the corner of her eye, someone appeared at the far end. Not shopping, standing, watching. And the moment Lena shifted her position, that person moved too. Not toward her, around her, like adjusting position, without making it obvious. Lena's grip tightened on the cart. Her heartbeat started to pick up. She told herself to stay calm. There was no reason to panic. Nothing had happened. No one had said anything. But that was the problem. Everything was happening without anything being said. She moved to the next aisle, then the next. And each time, someone was already there, not blocking, just present. The pattern became impossible to ignore. This wasn't coincidence. It was coordination. And then she noticed something worse. The employees. They weren't just watching. They were communicating. Subtle movements, small gestures, eye contact that lasted half a second too long. Lena felt it clearly now. She wasn't moving freely anymore. She was being guided, slowly, quietly, through the store, until she looked up and saw the front of the store. Lena stopped walking. Right there, middle of the aisle, because now it was obvious. Every movement had led her here, near the open space, near where everyone could see. Behind her, someone stood just far enough away to not be obvious, but close enough to follow. She looked forward. Another person stepped into view, not blocking, just waiting. This was about expectation. Everyone around her had already decided something, and they were waiting for it to happen. without proof, without reason, without a single word being spoken. Lena felt the pressure in her chest tighten. Any reaction would confirm what they already believed. So she did the only thing she could do. She stayed calm, moved forward slowly, did nothing wrong, said nothing, gave them nothing. And as she walked toward the exit, she felt every single eye on her, watching, waiting, ready. Lena left the store without anything happening. No confrontation, no accusation, no explanation, just silence. The way people moved, the way they watched her. It wasn't chaos, it was structure, it was control. Later, when she tried to explain it, it sounded small, like nothing actually happened. Because technically, nothing did. But that's what made it worse. Because sometimes, the most disturbing experiences are the ones where everything looks normal. But you know it isn't. Not just about her story, but about all of them. Because sometimes, the scariest part isn't what people do. It's what they're willing to believe, without ever needing proof. If you were in that situation, would you have noticed it in time? Or would you have walked out, thinking it was just another normal night?